Hello, this is Scott Kloss with the No Fear podcast. I'm really excited to sit down with my real estate and life coach, Craig Zuber, and you'll get to hear his journey on how he went through one of the hardest decisions of his life. And what I want you to really be focused on is the formula he used to help take action and not let fear overcome him. Well, thank you, Craig, for taking the time to sit down with us and share your journey. From my perspective, there hasn't been another individual who has had, more impact on my last 3 years of my life in the journey that I've been on and the things that you've conned me into doing. And for everyone that doesn't know, you're my real estate coach, also semi-life coach, and probably therapist. So I'm really excited to interview you and to hear what makes you tick. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and what got you to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. Third generation real estate agent, both sides of my family. Been a real estate business coach now for almost just under a decade. And that pretty much leads us here, right?
Yep. And how long were you in the real estate industry? How long have you been in?
Got into industry in 2004. At the end of 2003, started in 2004. Okay.
And from perspective, you're coaching other coaches how to coach. You've reached that level of that your industry, and you're also take on some of the top producing real estate agents and teams in the country, right? Like you've got some real estate clients and you've got some coaching clients.
That is correct. Yep. I have two focuses. One is production and one is coaching coaches.
Okay. And I wanted to bring you on this podcast, which specifically talks about the title is No Fear, and the acronym is Fake Events Appearing Real, because we all have that voice in our head that just tells us whatever, all the things that we can't do or why someone else could do it better, or, what's wrong with you, or stay in bed, or whatever that voice is. And I know your history, and I know you've had some pretty big decisions that you've made to get to you where you are today. And just for the purpose of this podcast, what of all your experiences and things that you've been through, is there one that stands out the most that we could really dive into?
Wow. I probably have fears every day that you have to face, but if there's one significant one that involved more than just me, it involved my entire, family. That was life-changing. Let's put it that way. It would be making the decision to leave our comfort zone of where we're at to relocate to an island, Hawaii, for a year. Now, it didn't start with a year. It was making the decision that you're going to take on something as bold as that, right? Like coming to the realization. I mean, honestly, it was 2016, and it was happening right around my birthday. So I was, what was that? 42 at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. And there was something in my head that I couldn't kick. And I couldn't really tell you why, but it was, I'm ready for this next adventure, and I'm ready to go. And I believe it's Hawaii. And so I sat down with my bride, Nicole, and I had shared it with her. Because this was kind of an ongoing conversation. It wasn't necessarily a distraction, but it was happening, and I couldn't kick it. And I finally sat down and I said, "Look, I can't get this out of my head." And she said, "I tell you what, we have vacations already set up for the summer. Why don't we cancel those vacations? Actually, go back to Hawaii and look at it through the lens of can we live here?" So that was about 8 years ago, almost to the day. I mean. Now that you think about it, my birthday's coming up here. So yeah, it was probably 8 years ago, on the money. So, you fast forward that, we go, and we're there. And how do you actually look at it through the lens of living? I'm not sure, but we're doing the best that we could while we were there. Now, here's what's fascinating though. While we were there, I actually take one of my coaching calls. And I let my coach at the time know what I was thinking in my head. And he said, you know what, if you're really thinking that and you can't kick it, then you should probably talk to people that have done it, something like this before. And I know somebody that has. They've left the United States. They went to move on the island. They basically let go of X, Y, and Z. And his name was Don Colinda. And while I was there, while Nicole and I were there, I was playing phone tag with him. And we finally connected after I landed back on the mainland. And he's like, wow, this is awesome. And he walked me through that journey. And I was picking his brain about the challenges and the excitement and life of like really no regrets and letting go of certain things and what our priorities were. And he goes, but man, if you're really, really considering this, you should come back next week. And I'm like, next week? He goes, yes, we have a grand opening on Oahu. All the key players in real estate will be there. They're all flying in from regional to, I'm like, man, I literally just landed. I literally walked off the plane. I saw him call and I took this, right? I took his call and I'm like, you know what? If this is what we're going to do and this is what we need to do, then we're going to find a way. So guess what? Got on the phone, made the arrangements, got back on the plane a week later and went and met the key players while we were there. So that's how it started. Yeah, it started there. And then while we were there, I happened to also run into, like who became my next coach, which was Tony DeCello. And I started talking to him about it. And, Tony, he's brilliant at what he does. And he kind of does the same thing as my other coach, Joe, did. And that was, well, such and such has done it, and this is the accomplishments that they've made. So there was a theme of like, who are the people that have pulled things off like this, that they both pointed in that direction. And then he, like, it was basically the encouragement of, you should do something like that. That would be awesome.
What I love about the story that we're going to get into is what you've realized looking back. It's kind of like a formula that you use, that anytime you're faced with a big decision like this, the same stuff applies to help get you through it. And we're going to unpack what that looks like. And, one of the key pieces is not only are you a coach to, 30, 40 people, but you also have a coach and a mentor. And then it was, well, go find someone that's done this. That's obviously a key piece that will bring into this. Who else is in your family that this would affect, and what was going on in your head when you were, making your decision as to like why not to do it, or what were you most afraid of?
Well, I think, you know what, now that I'm thinking about this, I probably need to adjust this too, because it's a significant point. And that was, so this is 2016. And I had just gotten done with the bold exercise, your future self, right? When you're climbing up the mountain. And so from me having the discussion with Nicole to Jake at the time being the bold instructor, doing an excellent job with that. It was like, that was the thing that hit home. I forgot that piece. It was Jake doing the future self. So from, rewind, and I wrote a letter to myself back in 2011, a 10-year letter of what my life would actually look like. So I'm coming to the crossroads of like halfway there. And then Jake does a future self exercise about having a conversation with the 80, 90-year-old version of yourself. It was that propelled me into, let's just at least go to this island and see it and feel it for ourselves. All right. So that's what happened. And then, there's excitement in the very beginning. There's excitement, right? Like, but what we had done when we were there though, Scott, was we made the decision that we were going to do it. why we were there that second time. We made the decision, you know what? Life's too short. What do we have to lose? What are we waiting for? Let's go. But it wasn't a let's go right this second. It was 365 days from this day, we will be back on this island living here. With my son being 14 and he's going to go into his freshman year, and my daughter being 11, right? They have their friend group. They've all grown up with them. They've played sports with them. So this is a pretty pivotal time in our life. And, as an adult, you can look at things from kind of the realistic perspective of this is what we're doing. But for the kids, it's like, are they going to look at this like it's a vacation? Can they really get their head wrapped around what we're actually looking to do? So we met a lot as a family and walked ourselves through it and why we would do it now. There's never a great time. And we got them all on board. So everybody's excited. We were ready to go.
And you did that before you visited, or you did that while you were there?
It just became an ongoing, continuous conversation. But it also started to, like, once we came back from Hawaii, made that decision, I hadn't really shared it with friends. I hadn't really shared it with a whole lot of people until the decision was made, right? And once that decision was made, I started meeting with great friends, letting them know. But I wouldn't say a whole lot changed in the very beginning. From the decision, yes, I could tell from the time that we made the decision and we knew it was true that things would change. Meaning, like, we may have to change the way we're doing business, right? Like, we may have to change some of the people that we currently had. We may have bring in different ones to be able to operate remotely. Because when now you're making decisions, right? Like, hey, every decision that you make, you have to be able to make that decision between 3,000 miles and an island, right? From where you currently were. It changes how you think. It changes everything about your approach. Half the stuff that you're used to being able to do, you're no longer going to be able to do it. So that was a tricky little place for a minute, right? And I was working through that with my coach. And it finally took about 3 months of realizing, well, how long are we actually going for? Because it's one thing to say, hey, I'm going to relocate to an island, but the challenge that I was really facing was we didn't actually know how long we were going for. So I made the decision that basically said this, like, people go to an island for the rest of their life. Some people do, and they're back in 30 days. Right? And there are other people that may go on vacation for 30 days and they stay for the rest of their life. And we didn't know which one we were. So because of that, I made the decision that at a minimum, we were going for 1 year. And what that did was help us decide how we would pack, right? What we would do with certain things. It made the execution a lot easier once that decision was made.
So the biggest thing was making that decision and having that clarity. You didn't have all the answers of everything once you made the decision, but you made the decision and said, we'll figure the rest out, basically.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, number one, we were clear on our objective. We're going to move to Oahu, Hawaii. Like, that's what we're going to do. We were clear. We had a timeline, 365 days. We will be on that island. So when you have a clear objective, right, and you have a timeline, and we were committed. We're committed to doing this, right? So that's really the formula. A clear objective, a commitment to doing it, a timeline, and then the willingness to do whatever it takes to pull this off. Because once we decided, did we actually know everything it was going to take? Do we know what the actual plan was? Well, no, we didn't. We didn't at all. And that's at either half the fun or half the fear.
Depending on who you are, what was the fear then? Now, when did it creep in after the adrenaline, went away? What were the thoughts that were going through your head?
I think we were good. Like, when I walking myself or thinking about this, because it's been some time now, 8 years. I don't know that there was a ton of fear. up until there was a lot of it.
Gradually, then suddenly.
So for me personally, the fear kicked in and ignited like the closer we got. So for the first night, for that first 3 months, you're excited. Oh my gosh, you got a mission, you got a purpose, you know why you're doing it, who's coming with you. You've employed the right people to make sure, like Nicole wanted to make sure operations was nailed down. She had Monica Reynolds, like every decision was being made, again, 3,000 miles away between the Pacific Ocean. I got Tony DeSello dialing me in completely, making sure that we're on the right path, right? We're all clear. We have this objective. And now we're about 3 months out. Like now we're getting close. It's go time. And my wheels fell completely off. Completely off. Like, you're sick. You wake up one day and it's like, what are you doing? Are you crazy? You currently operate this business. You currently have taken on a coaching, relationship. You're newer into that realm, or, a couple years in at that moment in time. You're really going to do this? Like, what are you doing to your kids? What are you doing to your family? What are you doing to your friends? What are you doing to your clients? Like, all of that was going through my head, every ounce of it. I was terrified, man. I literally called Nicole. I sat down. I'm like, we got to find a safer route. Maybe we go to Florida instead, right? It's not as far away. All of that was going through my head. Every ounce of fear that you could think of, every excuse, every story, every why you shouldn't do it came into my head 3 months from go time.
What got you through that?
There was a very pivotal call that happened between Nicole and Monica Reynolds that I wouldn't say it happened on that call, but right, like energy flows where attention goes. And Monica Reynolds literally gave that zero attention other than how stupid whatever thoughts you currently have. This is where you're going and this is why you're going there. And it was like a level shift redirect. And so that happened on a call. But for me personally, it wasn't that. It was, I had to think outside of me. And probably one of the biggest pieces was my kids. What are they going to think? Not just what they think, but what would I show them that we have a clear mission? We're super excited. We're going to go be adventurous. We're going to go live our life to the fullest. We put the action plan in place. We've made all the initiatives. And then you get scared and you bail. What kind of a dad would I be? What kind of a father figure? What kind of a mentor would I be? Like, as soon as your dreams are in motion, you chicken out. You step back. You find a reason not to instead of one reason to finish the mission. And then I looked at my coaching clients. How many of them have some element of a Hawaii or a life by design or something that they want to accomplish that is big and scary and hairy and audacious? And what would that do? This guy has done all of this, got all the right people employed, taken all the right steps, had the timeline, made the initiative, and he's going to bail? So there's a time in life where you got to do stuff for yourself. But this was way bigger than me, way bigger. And when I came to terms with myself, how big this was, it literally set me free, and let's roll. Mm-hmm. Right? Did that happen in a half an hour? Did that happen in a day? Did it take a week to get my head wrapped around it? I'm not exactly sure, but that was what was going on in my head of, this isn't about you, man. This is way bigger than you. Put your big boy pants on and let's go.
I love the concept of everyone has their own Hawaii. And that's really the purpose of this podcast would be, you all got a song in your soul, something you want to accomplish. and every day you wake up and you can tell yourself why you shouldn't do it, or maybe why tomorrow is a better day. So I really like the aspect of it being bigger than yourself and for your family, for your clients. And I think that's very relatable to everyone listening. My question is, did either of your kids or Nicole ever have a freak out moment like that? Or was it just you?
Transparently, I believe it was me.
Yeah.
Right? Like, again, everything was set in motion. So I didn't hide it, right? I was being real about it. So I think that's the other piece that maybe, from a leadership or a mentorship perspective of like, it's actually okay to share your fears or your concerns with the people that are closest to you. And maybe they'll bring the calm and they'll bring it back to you. Because it wasn't, Nicole's, it wasn't like, yes, great, let's go to Florida. It didn't work that way. I was literally like pulling out the chart, benefits of going here versus this, that, or the other. And it was a combination of them reminding me, kind of like what I have to do to people all the time, right? Like people need to be reminded way more than they need to be trained and educated. Remind me why you were doing this in the first place. And by going through that motion of like listing all the benefits creates buy-in. Buy-in creates confidence. Confidence creates execution. I just needed to do that in my soul. And when I did, there was no looking back.
Love that story. So you got through this. Now you're getting even closer. What did you have to prepare for? And did everything go as smoothly as you planned?
Well, I think things were going pretty smoothly right up until about 2 weeks or 10 days before we were getting on the plane. Right. So the call comes in and lets us know that the housing that we had lined up had fallen through. That's a good feeling, right?
Fun. What did you have to do then? Or what came of that? How did you find a place?
Oh, no, it didn't work that way at all. It was okay. So we don't have a place.
Okay.
Now what? Again, you're faced with the whole decision. You're faced with the decision tree already. Again, well, are we going to delay it? What else are we going to do? But we put things into motion already, right? So because we were already in motion, because we were already, number one, committed, willing to do whatever it takes, was it a setback? Sure. But did we figure it out? Yeah. Did we figure it out before we got on the plane? No, we didn't. We had faith, right? Fear of faith, right? So the only thing that really had changed was each of us, we made basically the agreement. We each get to take 2 full-size suitcases to Hawaii. That's what you get for a year, which is really awesome, right? It was really awesome until we got to the airport. I opened up my daughter's suitcase and she got like pet rocks in there. I'm like, right, we're dealing with the weight issues of the bags and rocks are all over inside her suitcase. That was pretty awesome. But no, what really changed was, okay, we had to pivot a little bit. We got a pallet in our garage and some of the stuff, we just had that pallet packed and it was going to be shipped. And the only difference is that we had to get somebody that was already working with us, that once we told them the address, that they would make sure that pallet got shipped to whatever our future address was going to be. Outside of that, no, business as usual. We got on the plane. We had a hotel lined up for 10 days, for the first 10 days, preparing for us to get into that home that was ready. And the house opened up probably like, I think we were 3 or 4 days in. A house opened up that honestly was 10 times from the location perspective and the house itself, 10 times better than what we had originally had locked and loaded before it fell.
Mm. Were you renting or buying?
A favor, right? Like that's what the whole thing is. When you're willing to do what it takes, when you have a clear objective, you make decisions, like Providence shifts and things start to work in your favor. And you have to have faith. Right? Like that's all I can say. Fear of faith. You choose. Why? They're both made up. You might as well choose faith.
Were you buying a place or were you renting a place?
No, we were renting a place for that 1 year because we were going there for a 1 year stint. If we knew when we got there, if we knew that we were going to stay past that, things would have been we would have changed that, right? But we didn't, right? We didn't know. We actually didn't figure it out until about 6 months in of whether we were going to stay or go.
Okay. So first 6 months you're there, like, what do you do? What are your days like? What is that? Because this is your life by design. You're doing it. Was it everything you thought it was?
Yeah, I think Nicole had done a better job of preparing her schedule. And I only say that from the sense of you have to prepare for this, right? Like a lot of so I was a coach at the time. And what did I prepare for was, well, the time zone. Because I had East Coast and Central Time clients, and half of that year, that was a 6 hour to a 5 hour difference, which means I was starting my day pretty early, right? I guess if you want to call it a downside, you're starting early. What's the upside? You're off early. So my days never really went past 11 a.m. to noon. So to be able to do your thing and then be on island time, it was pretty awesome. And the other thing that happens when you have a time zone that's so far ahead, when you're in the middle of the afternoon, everybody else is in bed. So your phone's not blowing up. You're not getting like all kinds of text messages and calls because everybody's asleep. So while you're up, everybody else is asleep. It was really awesome.
Yeah. How did the kids like it? They go to school, meet new friends. Were they? What was their?
Yeah, it was all. Look, did it have challenges? I think so. Yeah, it did because they came out of a pretty large school and they ended up in Waldorf. And Waldorf, I mean, my son goes from what would have been a freshman class of 700 kids ends up in a freshman class at Waldorf of 9 kids. Yeah. So did we adapt? Did we overcome? Did they make friends? Yes, yes, and yes, right? Were we adventurous? Did we explore that island? Absolutely. Did we learn how to surf? Did we learn how to, did we learn about that island? Yes. Would I have traded it for anything? Absolutely not. Zero, right? Yeah. It was awesome.
I mean, you can always move to Hawaii when you're retired and old and don't have your health and all that, but you chose to do it like at your peak and when your kids are still young.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. What went on then around 6 months that swayed your decision one way or the other? Like what?
Nothing. I don't know that anything. It wasn't anything that actually showed up. It was one of those things where, look, this island is amazing. It really, truly is. And it was almost like a feeling of all of us that we kind of revisited it. We had a lot of people visit. That was the other thing, man. You moved to Hawaii, you get all kinds of visitors. So that's really fun, and it can be a challenge. Like the fun part is you get to see people that you might not have seen for a long period of time. The downside is they're always coming on vacation. So they're like, hey, they always want to be on vacation. I'm like, that's awesome, but we got to wait till noon.
Yeah.
So I don't know that there was anything specific other than it was right about the 6-month mark where we had realized as a family, this place is incredible. And it might be something for us to revisit maybe a decade from now or years in the future. But it's not for us long-term now. So let's take advantage of the next 6 months because we committed for the year, go all in, and then relocate back to the mainland. Cool.
You had a pretty scary moment while you were there and, life-threatening. And, you talked through it with me about, what went on in your head. But I love the story, and I just would love for you to share what that was like for you.
Yeah, that wasn't very long after we had made the decision, actually. It was my son's birthday. It was the morning of my son's birthday. And I was making bacon at the time. I was making pancakes and bacon, getting prepared for us to go surfing and go to the beach that day. And all of a sudden, a text message comes through. I didn't see it at the time. Nicole had seen it. She didn't say anything because we were kind of like focused on Zach. And then it comes through again. And then I looked at my phone, and it basically says that we have a ballistic missile heading for us, and it's not a drill. Like, take cover, take shelter. This is not a drill. Ballistic missile headed your way. Well, I don't know how the rest of the world would think if you knew that a ballistic missile is heading right for you. But I think what was really crazy about it is seek shelter. Well, we had it. We were in the house. It was designed that way. I mean, those houses on how their windows come up and things of that nature. That's the shelter that you would need. Okay. I'm around like my family. So which would arguably be one of the most scariest, 43 minutes of your life. It really wasn't. I was at peace. I was at calm. I didn't change anything. I just kept making bacon and kept making pancakes and kept focusing on my kids and my bride. Nicole was making some calls, and she was trying to figure out if this is real and what's going on. So, but no, it's like when you're in that space and and I recognize my priorities are right here. What else is there to do? I mean, if we're going to go out, we're going out together, and it is what it is. So it brought a very specific calm over me, anyway, that is pretty hard to articulate.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing that on the news or whatever, that there was a missile going to Hawaii. But I mean, it's a different conversation than if it's coming to where I am. I didn't know anyone that lived there. It's just a news story. And what I'm hearing from that is you're already living like you're living your life. You're living your life by design. You're in it. Like what can you possibly do differently? You're not going to call your clients and say, hey, I might, this is happening. If you were with your clients, you're going to call your family, but you were there. So the lesson I see is like you were living what you wanted to do. If that was happening and there was a missile coming to where you were and you decided not to go to Hawaii, you probably would have been thinking, man, I wish we would have done this trip to Hawaii. But you weren't living with the regret, and then you were able to be calm.
Yep. We were living it. We were living it, right? Like we weren't talking about it. We weren't wishing it. We weren't wanting it. We were living it.
Uh-huh.
If the world's going to end while you are truly 100% living it, that's as peaceful and as calm as you could ever ask for.
Yeah, that's a very cool story. And I think if most people had that scenario, it would not be calm that would overcome them. I think it would be panic and some regret and all the things of that nature. So
yeah. I'm just grateful that I had the people around me, right? Like, so, for what I do today with people, it's very similar. Remind me why you're doing it in the first place. We're all gonna wobble. We're all gonna get to a place where our mind's gonna take over. And my job is just to be the guide there at that moment in time to remind you why we set forth on this in the first place. And most importantly, it's when it gets tough.
Now you have decided, or the time's up, the year's up. Did you decide to go back to where you were, or what happened after you moved back?
I don't know if anything happened. It was fascinating that we were all like in agreement that the island wasn't going to be long-term for us at that point in our life, and we weren't ready to go back to where we were at. So that was the next kind of like 6 months of like, there wasn't a lot of fear. That was kind of excitement too, of where we're going and why are we going there, and kind of like a whole new level of priorities and what mattered most. And so process of elimination to end us up in Austin, where we love living now.
Mm-hmm. I got to imagine, like you said, excitement instead of fear. I mean, you already did it. Like you already conquered this fear. You could go anywhere, So that's a cool feeling too, is like, man, if you could truly pick, and the kids is probably the main reason why people stay where they are, but you've already done that, and you could go anywhere. So that's got to feel amazing.
It felt amazing because everybody felt that at that point, right? Like the kids were prepared, they were ready, like all of that. It kind of like, no destination. It's a journey. That's what this is, man. Like get prepared to have a hell of an adventure and a hell of experiences and a hell of a journey. And I think we were pretty much all on the same page with that. And that's what made it exciting, right? I mean, excitement, fear, it's all some level of energy. So just latch on to the excitement piece.
This reminds me of a dear friend of ours that passed away last year. Her name was Sarah Rocco, and she was a mother of 3, 39 years old. What strikes me the most about her was that in the last year of her life, she was able to go to London with her kids, and she was able to go to Italy with her kids. And they're close to graduation. One of them was graduated. 2 of them were close. And I could just see it being so easy to say, well, when everyone's graduated, we'll take this trip. Or I'm really busy with work this year. I got a lot going on. My executive assistant quit, and I just can't make it happen. But if she would have let herself go down that road, she would have never gotten those experiences. And I see the same thing with you, where no one will ever be able to take that year away from you. But it could have easily never happened.
Easily. Oh, there's all kinds of reasons not to, right? Like you see the stories. Well, I grew up here, and my friends are here, and my family is here, and my business is here, and everything I'm looking for is here. Okay, well, same with me. The only difference is one decided and made a commitment and went all in, and somebody else didn't. That's really the only difference. You can find a way. Right? And I mean, at some point you have to ask, what are you waiting for?
Yeah.
Because it is truly, when you think about the bigger picture of life, it is truly arrogant that you believe that you have tomorrow, because we don't have control over that. We don't. What you have control over is the decisions that you make, the choices that you make. If you don't like where you're at, make different choices. And there are other people that have faced big fears like this before, me being one of them. Lean on people that have faced huge decisions like this and what they did to overcome it. Surround yourself with people that believe in you, that believe that you can, that are going to help you find a way, not find a reason. Right? So it's know what your objective is and be clear on it. Have a timeline behind it. Be willing to do whatever it takes, knowing that the world will start to deliver answers to you, and stay committed to the mission. And I promise you, it will all work out.
That's the formula. And you've applied that to many other instances in your life. And one just transition here is how it applies to what we've been doing from a experiential coaching that I believe has been the most impactful, decision around like my change and my personal growth, and how you brought your lessons learned from this decision into, how you coach today. And specifically around, hey, I remember the coaching call. You said, I'm doing the Disney marathon. And I said, that's awesome, man. Good for you. And then you're like, well, you are too. And I was like, the hell I am, I can run a mile or 2 right now. And, it's October or September, and this is in January. And the whole half hour was my excuses and my reasons I couldn't do it. And I don't know if you practiced beforehand, but you had answers for everything I said. And ultimately, I made that decision. And I look at your formula, it all started with that decision. And I said, okay, I'll do it. I didn't say like how. And it was just the decision, and then the group of people that you had all like sold somehow to do this marathon that got me through it and got you through it. So was that by design? Like, can you talk us through how that came about, where you wanted to create this kind of group of people to do these challenging things, and where it started to where it is now?
I wouldn't say that. I would say more of like, hey, the people that are in my world have helped form who I am as well. And there are times where it's like, hey, he sold me on it. I'm like, did I actually sell you on it, or did I keep show you all the benefits of what it would do for you? And that's really the formula. Like, benefits create buy-in. So let's look at benefits of getting off the couch. Let's look at benefits of staying committed. Let's look at benefits of who else you might inspire to run with you. What else it will do for your life, what maybe your kids would think if you accomplish something, Lars, that you didn't think about. Like, it's just going back to that benefit, and who else will come with you to make sure that you stay accountable, that you stay on point, that the days that you don't want to do it, that you actually follow through because somebody else did it and it gave you courage, or it gave you confidence because of it, right? Like, we're all human here. We need other elements of people to either hold us accountable, not really accountable, hold us able and capable of becoming the best versions of ourselves. That's it.
Yeah, and what you didn't think of is that you guys all live in the South and I don't. And so when I'm training for these marathon runs, it's 10 degrees out or 0 degrees. And I'm like, I'll just skip today. But we had that group text of, hey, we got done with our run. Here's the results. And if it wasn't for that text, I wouldn't have went on the run. Like, I know it. I would have just said, I'll skip this one.
That's right.
And I did a 21-mile run on a treadmill, and I watched all of the new Matrix movie, and then I had another hour and a half left of running. So it was amazing what that did for me, and I'm continuing to use it to this day with making me feel alive. That's my word of the year. If you do that hard thing, you feel alive.
It's just, that's it. Live, right? Like, how can you lead if you don't live? Right? I see so much focus on being an excellent leader. I'm like, how about be an excellent liver? Go live your life to the fullest. And as a byproduct, you might become an excellent leader. But leading without living is backwards. And you can't give what you don't have. It will catch up to you. So we face our fears because our goal demands it, because our mission demands it. That's why we do it. It's not because we don't have them. We all have them. We find a bigger purpose, right? And I promise, the how is not important. The what it is that we're going to accomplish and who we're doing it with always will deliver the how.
And who we will become in the process.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate just going deep into that story. I think that if you're listening to this, whatever pops in your mind of what your Hawaii is, really take a long look at this and run it through the formula. And why wait? Tomorrow may not happen. And it would be amazing to you and to me if this did inspire someone to do something maybe they weren't thinking of, or they were thinking of, but they didn't have the courage to act on it. And I look forward to many more years of, I'm sure you got a lot of songs to sing still. You got a lot to live, a lot to give. And I just look forward to where we'll continue to go on this journey.
That's right, man. It's not waiting for things to get better. It's not waiting for, it's not about the trophies in life. I promise. It's about the experiences. It's about the adventure. And it's not just about making a decision. It's about making a decision that's going to lead us to the new discoveries, the new paths, the new victories. That's what it will open up for you. The journey.
Love it. Thank you so much for your time. I know you had to rearrange some clients and things like that, so appreciate it. And look forward to having everyone be able to hear this message.
All right, man.
Thanks
Appreciate
a lot.
it. Thanks for having me.
Take care. Wow, what an episode. I hope you enjoyed listening to Craig as much as I did, hearing his formula for facing fears. And the question I would ask you is, what is your Hawaii? And really make that happen to live your life by design. If you found value in today's episode, please like, comment, subscribe, and share it with a friend that you think could use it.